our people suffer as a result of the corruption. And therefore, we need to address it, because corruption undermines the ability of our countries to deliver inclusive and sustainable economic growth and social progress. It persists as a grave challenge to the development and growth of all our countries, a malignant force in our societies. Matching up to corruption requires the spirit of Commonwealth goodwill, mutual support, experience, and expertise. Our present global context is challenging. Conflict, COVID-19, climate change, and spiraling costs of food and fuel. These are the conditions in which corruption can thrive. So building integrity into our systems of governance is more important than ever. So let us just attempt to quantify the problem. Globally, corruption leads to illicit financial flows, costs developing countries between about $1.26 trillion per year. Africa loses over $50 billion a year through illicit flows, equivalent to all annual official development assistance. The Africa Growth Initiative concludes that sub-Saharan Africa received nearly $2 trillion in foreign direct investment and official development assistance between 1980 and 2018, but lost more than $1 trillion to illicit financial outflows. When looking at the whole of Africa, that figure rises to 1.3 trillion. And let us be clear, 1.3 trillion could lift the 1.4 billion people living on less than $1.25 per day out of poverty. Transparency International calculates that corruption costs the health sector $500 billion every year, more than the amount needed for worldwide universal health coverage. Every $100 million lost to corruption could fund full immunization for 4 million children or provide water connection for 250,000 households. And the damage goes beyond headline statistics. Of course, money that is stolen through corruption cannot be invested locally, robbing communities of vital inward investment. But these losses aggravate risk and uncertainty, disincentivizing private investment. And this further loads the dice against those who are already in poverty. Corruption is a menace that puts a devastating handbrake on the ability for communities and countries, indeed entire continents, to thrive. It is simply unacceptable. So we should not accept it. It is not inevitable, so we should take action to stop it. The action should ultimately be shaped by the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs are the essential framework for collective progress. Achieving them would deliver the solemn promise of all nations to leave no one behind. And tackling corruption must be a priority of the highest order, not simply because SDG 16 sets specific targets to reducing corruption, bribery, and illicit financial flows, but because we cannot deliver any of the SDGs without tackling corruption. The big question is how. How we can successfully tackle corruption and deliver the SDGs. What is our statement of intent? What is our action plan? This is where I believe the Commonwealth has a big role to play. The Commonwealth collectively has made a statement of its intent in our charter. Our action plan is the technical assistance offered by the Commonwealth Secretariat to our member states. In fact, Commonwealth Charter has a strong relationship with the SDGs. Adopted in 2012, it was the precursor and in many ways the template for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, agreed 3 years later. The 16 articles of our charter match almost precisely the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda, with the addition of overarching Commonwealth principles of partnership. And it was interesting, if you look at who Ban Ki-moon asked to spearhead and craft those SDGs, I smiled when I realized that almost every one of them was a Commonwealth country. So I think the world has a lot to thank the Commonwealth for, not least to thank Commonwealth Africa. These are the defining principles which all our member states voluntarily commit to upholding, just as the SDGs are the defining goals for the development against which we must measure ourselves. But we need more than principles and goals. We need action. So let me assure you, all of you, that with our three-pronged approach, based on research, capacity building, and strong collaboration, the Commonwealth Secretariat is 100% committed to helping our member states act on corruption. And this, as you know, is a personal priority for me. In 2016, very soon after Commonwealth heads of government entrusted me with the responsibilities of Secretary General, I convened the first Commonwealth Tackling Corruption Together conference. And this conference identified the clear need for a clear, simple, deliverable, pan-Commonwealth tool to help promote the integrity and combat corruption in public and private sectors. And the Secretariat responded to that need, working in close consultation with member states to develop the groundbreaking anti-corruption benchmarks. And I will never forget President Buhari at that conference when they asked him about what the UK and others should do. And he said very clearly, I don't need an apology. I just need them to send my money back. Give me my money back. And these benchmarks are there to make sure that others give the money back. The package of 22 measures ranges from the disclosure of assets and rules around political lobbying to investigations, prosecutions, and sanctions. Each benchmark is defined by a core principle and contains detailed guidance for turning that principle into practice. Across the board, they are consistent with the international standards, and in some areas they go further to set new standards. For instance, we believe the Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Benchmarks is the first document which connects public and private conduct at such a scale. So the benchmarks are a tool for governments, providing very practical support to help them achieve transparency and good governance in the corporate sector. And they are a tool for businesses, providing consistency and clarity on pan-Commonwealth trade and procurement, and providing companies with incentives to prevent and detect bribery and corruption. And I am proud to say that our anti-corruption work received an International Excellence Award, which was received by our own dear Dr. Karatang. And so we are very proud of the work all of you have done with us to enable that to take place. It speaks speaks volumes for our work, and it is something of which we can be really, really proud. That was the benefit of us coming together, working together, and being determined. So many of you have been part of that journey, and we all need each other on the road ahead. We would not have got where we are today without your commitment. We need each other literally, because corruption reaches beyond national boundaries. So we need international cooperation to share information, track and recover assets, and stamp out jurisdictional secrecy. And we need each other to maximize the benefits of the transformative technologies of the 21st century and those that are offered to us. Take blockchain as an example. Corruption is strongly associated with intimacy, hidden transactions, and distortion of results. But blockchain provides transparency and immutability. Corruption is associated with centralization and misuse of power. But blockchain brings new dimensions to the decentralization of power. Blockchain can serve a database which automatically registers transactions, records such as financial transactions, which will be visible to the public and cannot be altered. Technology can help us to aggregate the data on government spending and contracting and to analyze it for signs of waste, fraud, and corruption, and develop an early warning system for identification of risky officials. It can help us identify risky officials and patterns of corrupt practices, such as whose family members got too many contracts. This is the opportunity we can grasp through technology. And this opportunity is something which we must grasp, because corruption goes beyond national boundaries and is global in nature. The secrecy and jurisdiction have further made the anti-corruption work challenging. The cooperation and sharing of information are crucial in asset tracking and recovery of assets. We must develop and work simple mechanisms to recover ill-gotten assets lying in the foreign jurisdictions. The collaboration must go beyond anti-corruption agencies to the anti-money laundering agencies and to the authorities in the Commonwealth countries. And we can win the war against the corruption through collaboration, cooperation, and through the whole of Commonwealth approach, using these transformative processes. And this is within our grasp. And this opportunity of technology is new and vital, but it needs the political will that has been shown by all our countries here today. And I underline the fact that we have to hug our politicians close. So we encourage and enable them to stay with us, as all of your countries have stayed with us. For anti-corruption efforts to be the best, we have to have a whole Commonwealth approach, and it can be working together, learning from each other, and collectively setting the highest possible standards. And this essential ambition will be part of the agenda for the forthcoming Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting here in Kigali next month. So it's fitting and timely that we gather here for this conference, Combating Corruption for Good Governance and Sustainable Development in Africa. Our huge collective responsibility is the bond of trust between governments, businesses, civil society, and the people. So I applaud your commitment to upholding and deepening the campaign for integrity and against corrupt practice. And I'm sure that this conference will offer us all a brilliant platform to share knowledge, experience, and expertise together. As ever, the Commonwealth Secretariat, under my stewardship, stands ready to help you in whichever way we can and howsoever we can. And I'm eternally optimistic that if we work together and work well, Commonwealth Africa and the Commonwealth as a whole will sweep corruption aside and create the lasting, positive space for sustainable development to thrive and the people everywhere to flourish. So I end as I started, with my profound thanks and gratitude and commitment. And so I say, may God bless you for the work that you're doing. May God bless Rwanda and its people, keep you strong so that we will win this fight together. Thank you.